Mercedes has revived a classic 1970s name in creating this SLC, which replaces the third generation SLK as the company's compact roadster. There's a slightly smarter look both inside and out, while the top AMG variant gets a more sensible twin-turbo V6. The key changes for most buyers, though, lie in upgraded automatic transmission and a dynamic select driving mode system that helps make this machine more rewarding to drive than you might expect.
Think about a compact, fashionable, open-top sports car with a clever metal folding roof, and you tend to think of the model that, back in 1996, basically invented that concept, the Mercedes SLK. It was a car gradually improved, polished, and refined over 2 decades and 3 generations that have brought us to the version we're going to try here. Now, there's a new name to get used to. Mercedes now calls this car the SLC, but the fundamentals of what's on offer here are basically the same. What's changed, though, is the packaging and the technology that make this car what it is. Crucial upgrades for such a style-conscious market. What you need to know up front is that this isn't a completely new car. Instead, the SLC is an evolution of the third-generation SLK model launched back in 2011, although an extremely thorough one. Fortunately, that Mark III SLK was a very good product, the first design from this model line offering genuinely good driving dynamics. Previous to that model's introduction, the SLK may have been classed as a sports car, but it certainly didn't drive like one. Bought instead by fashion-conscious folk who like the badge and the clever Vario roof. Forced to up its game by improving rivals like Audi's TT Roadster and BMW Z4, the third-generation SLK proved to be a big step forward, with classic looks borrowed from the iconic 190 SL of the 50s, powerful engines, and a clever optional dynamic handling package to get the best from them. By 2015, though, it was clear that another big step was needed. That rival Audi TT Roadster had been re-energised in third-generation form and was eating into SLK sales. Plus, there was also the imminent prospect of a forthcoming third-generation BMW Z4 model likely to do the same. Now, to counter this threat, Mercedes ideally needed an all-new car, not a facelift package for an existing one. But it was too early in the product life cycle for fundamental engineering changes and a completely new design. Hence, the interim solution arrived at here. Give the SLK a new name, thoroughly re-engineer it, and relaunch the car with a refreshed look and feel. It's all brought us to this SLC. The C designation apparently references the close engineering links that this Roadster has always shared with Mercedes C-Class models, which means that this SLC gets all the latest technology found in that product range. Things like the 9G-tronic 9-speed automatic transmission, the most sophisticated setup in the segment, and a dynamic select driving mode system able to modify the engine, the transmission, steering, and the suspension settings to suit the driver's need. There's also a new high-performance flagship variant, the Mercedes AMG SLC 43, which swaps the old SLK 55 AMG's thirsty V8 for a twin-turbo 3-litre V6 that's almost as fast and much more efficient. Plus, across the range, there's smarter styling inside and out, along with plenty of the brand's latest technology when it comes to safety and connectivity. Will it all be enough to keep this car competitive in its segment? Or is this merely an exercise in badge engineering? Time to find out. The old SLK didn't appeal to the track day crowd, and this SLC won't do either. Now, that's not to say it can't be very enjoyable to drive, though. On the contrary, if your perception of this car comes coloured by memories of first and second generation SLK dynamic duffers, then this modern-day compact Mercedes Roadster is likely to impress you very favourably. The mechanical recipe hasn't changed very much, although significant alterations to the ways you can access it mask that to some extent. The 95% of SLC owners likely to want automatic transmission are now treated to the most sophisticated setup in the class. A super smooth 9-speed 9G-tronic system operated on better trim models by these galvanised silver chrome paddle shifters. Ratio shift timings are one of the parameters you can alter via Dynamic Select, a driving mode system that represents the other key addition to this SLC's road-going repertoire. As with most such setups, this one allows you to alter steering feel, throttle response and stability control thresholds too, all to better suit the way that you want to drive. From startup, there's a default comfort setting, and from there you can choose either a frugally focused eco mode or more dynamic sport or sport plus options. You can also fiddle with the parameters of the various system elements by altering settings on a further individual menu. Spend long enough with this and you should find a setup you'll like. Now, if all of that gets you in the mille miglia mood, you'll be target market for the optional element that'll make a big difference to the enjoyment you'll be able to derive from this car if you're likely to regularly drive it quite hard. Now, if that's the case, tick the box for what Mercedes calls its dynamic handling pack, the main element of which is an adaptive damping system that adjusts a ride to suit your mood and works through the comfort, sport and sport plus dynamic select driving modes that I was just talking about. The dynamic pack also includes two further features: sharper direct steer speed sensitive steering and an ESP curved dynamic assist torque vectoring system that imperceptibly applies the brakes to your inside front wheel in tight cornering to improve traction and to fire you from bend to bend. Does it all work? Well, not well enough to make this car into any sort of direct Porsche 718 Boxster alternative, but then that car's priced way above mainstream SLC models. A version of this Mercedes equipped with the dynamic handling pack would, though, we think, be a match for just about anything that more direct rivals like mainstream versions of BMW Z4 and Audi's TT Roadster could offer, which might genuinely shock some buyers approaching this model expecting it to be some sort of hairdresser's conveyance. The SLC 300 variant we're trying here definitely isn't that. For a start, the coiffure in question will certainly be violently blown about by performance that sees this 2-litre turbocharged petrol variant sprint to 62 miles an hour in just 5.8 seconds en route to a top speed that has to be artificially restricted to 155 miles an hour. Like most models in the range, this one is offered only with the 9G Tronic Auto box that we mentioned earlier, which is good because it suits this engine to a T, and it's every bit as slick as the Audi TT's S-Tronic Auto transmission, while offering 3 more ratios to play with than you get in that car. This SLC 300 may be a minority player in the lineup, but we reckon it's a real gem. Slot yourself into the Sport or Sport Plus dynamic select modes and you get a little more crackle from the exhaust to underline this variant's ability. Or you can ease back and enjoy it as a supremely refined and able cruiser. At this point, though, we should talk a little more about the SLC derivatives that most customers will buy. Prime in popularity is the entry-level SLC 200, the only variant in the range to offer the option of a manual gearbox if you really don't want the automatic. This uses the 2-litre turbocharged petrol engine in a slightly less frantic 184 bhp state of tune, but it still fronts up with 300 Nm of torque, enough low-down shove to ensure that overtaking's easy and swift, while the 62 miles an hour sprint is dispatched in 7 seconds flat. Even more torque is provided by the diesel variant, the auto-only SLC 250D. Here, a 2.1-litre 204 bhp motor pushes out 500 Nm of pulling power, so Sunday dawdlers can be dealt with in even shorter order. 62 miles an hour from rest takes 6.6 seconds en route to 152 miles an hour. Finally, we'll brief you on the flagship pure AMG model, a car powered by a snarling 421 bhp 5.5-litre V8 in the previous version of this car. And we always rather admired the way that AMG engineers have somehow crammed such a huge engine into such a comparatively small car. But the concept really never made much sense, and sure enough, it's been canned as part of the switch into this SLC model. Instead, the top Mercedes AMG SLC 43 variant now makes do with a 3-litre twin-turbo V6 and 367 brake horsepower, which does sound like a bit of a demotion. Fortunately, much of that power deficit is hidden by the combination of a 30-kilogram weight saving and the quick shifting reactions of the mandatory 9G-tronic auto gearbox, with the result that the 4.7-second 0 to 62 mile an hour sprint time is just a tenth slower than that of the old V8. Plus, of course, you get much improved economy and very decent traction too, thanks to the standard limited slip differential. Unfortunately, the SLC 43's biggest problem is pricing that pitches it right into Porsche territory, which is why we'd counsel you to try this much more affordable and almost as quick SLC 300 variant before you sign a cheque for one. Whatever your SLC engine preference though, one of the biggest attractions with this car will be its Vario electric metal folding roof, which can now be operated on the move at speeds of up to 25 miles an hour. Although it is somewhat annoying that you've still briefly got to stop to begin the activation process. This takes a little longer than it would do in a soft top, 16 seconds in all, but it's very difficult not to admire the cleverness of the automotive origami as it clicks and whirs into place around you. And when everything is finally in place, wind and road noise are sealed out as effectively as they would be in any conventional fixed top model. This is one of the reasons why this SLC can be such a great long-distance tourer if you ever need it to be, and another reason why loyal owners like it so much. In rival models, you might think twice about a really lengthy trans-European touring trip. In this car, you'd relish such a jaunt, not only because of the refined cabin, but also because of the stable feel and the way the suspension so easily deals with broken tarmac. Not everyone, you see, buys a roadster to drive on their door handles. And if for you, a car of this kind must be able to do more than that, well, then we think you might very well like this one. Different, but somehow still the same, is the aesthetic story with this SLC. The changes over the third generation SLK it's derived from are minor, which means that you get the familiar long bonnet, short boot roadster proportions that have long characterized that model line. Original designer Michael Plessing blended this look with classic cues from some of the Stuttgart maker's older open-top sports cars. The chrome finned ventilation grills on the front wings, for example, reference famous Mercedes-Benz roadsters of the 50s, like the legendary 190 SL, while the upright radiator grille might remind other brand enthusiasts of the original SLC model, which was essentially a hard-top coupe version of the brand's larger SL sports car, and was a variant produced between 1971 and 1981. As the most significant SLC styling changes have taken place at the front, that's where we'll start. This steeply raked diamond-style front grille is new, elongating the appearance of this arrow-shaped bonnet and now more closely copying that of the C-Class model that provides this roadster's engine wear. Looks even nicer with this particular car's AMG line trim, which adds into it a chrome-plated louvre and these jewel-like chromed pins. Another alteration that SLK owners might notice lie in the way that the previously separate daytime running lamps have now been integrated into these smarter, sleeker headlights that can now, as here, feature full LED technology. Integrating all the illumination into this headlamp unit has allowed this lower frontal area to be reworked in a significantly more dynamic way, with more striking air intakes, aggressively moulded contours, and this neat chrome-trimmed lower edge. From the side, the updates made to this model are harder to spot, though the wheels, 17 or 18 inches in size, feature new 5-spoke or multi-spoke designs. Now, as I mentioned earlier, the most notable profile styling feature is this side wing ventilation grille, which features twin creases that flow purposefully into this front door panel and a high sheen chrome fin, echoing that of the legendary Mercedes 300 SL. AMG line models like this one get branded brake calipers and sport suspension lowered by 10 millimeters. The rear perspective is another from which the SLC updates were only very subtly evident. These narrower LED tail lamps are different, and as at the front, the lower area is more purposefully finished, with chrome-trimmed exhaust pipes nestling either side of the integrated diffuser. And before we take a look inside, let's just take a moment to consider the SLC's electro-hydraulic Vario metal folding roof. Collapsible tin tops have fallen from fashion in recent years, but with this car, Mercedes never considered reverting to the kind of fabric roof favoured by rivals like Audi's TT Roadster or Porsche's Boxster. Instead, they've sought to emphasise the benefits of folding metal top technology, not just in the extra security it provides, but also in the option it offers, taken up here, of providing owners with a glass top that gives them a much lighter, airier-feeling cabin when the roof's up. At extra cost, you can also have this with what Mercedes calls magic sky control that turns the glazed panel opaque at the touch of a button to shade the cabin from bright sunlight. Changes made to the Vario roof setup for this SLC remove a couple of the irritations that used to constantly annoy us in the third generation SLK. Now in that car, the roof mechanism wouldn't work at speeds of over 2 miles an hour. So even in stop-start traffic, when travelling roof open and troubled by a sudden downpour, you had to find a place to park up before you could shelter yourself from the elements. Now the Vario mechanism works a little differently. You still have to briefly stop to activate it. Once the process is underway, you can travel at speeds of up to 25 miles an hour until the job finishes, which is much, much better. And if you pay extra for the keyless go option we've got here, it's possible, as you've already seen, for the top to be programmed to work from the key fob, so as you don't need to disturb your cappuccino if you're sitting over the road from your car and the heavens suddenly open. As before, the erection or retraction process occupies 16 seconds, and also as before, it won't work unless the boot separator is in its lower position, which it typically won't be if you've been recently using the car with the roof up on journeys where you've needed to maximise boot space. Now previously, that left you constantly wondering why the roof mechanism didn't operate at the usual press of the centre console button, until you remembered that the separator positioning was wrong and then had to get out to alter it. In an SLC, though, the car is able to sense this situation and automatically lower the boot separator if you forget to do it. Now, we should mention that when it is lowered, space shrinks quite a lot, as you can see, to just 225 litres. To be fair, though, that is still 45 litres more than you get in a comparable BMW Z4 and only 55 litres less than you get in a soft-top Audi TT Roadster. With the roof up and the separator raised in this SLC, you can surpass that Audi's capacity. Cargo space rising to a very reasonable 335 litre total. Take a seat inside and again, you'll find that the evolutionary process has led to a range of subtle changes. This revised sports steering wheel, for example, is perfect in size and thickness and lovely to hold with the perforated leather and contrast top stitching you get in this AMG line trimmed model. Through it, you view a redesigned instrument binnacle, the two tubular instrument surrounds now featuring black dials with red needles. The gauge faces on this sportier variant picked out with a checkered flag motif. As before, these readouts are separated by a 4.5-inch colour TFT monitor, delivering the usual trip computer and media functions that this same display provides in more conventional Mercedes models. Anything this screen can't tell you will be dealt by this main infotainment monitor, which deals with the usual audio, Bluetooth and navigational functions and sits between these two silver jet turbine-style air vents at the top of the centre stack. Media connectivity is something else that's been worked on as part of the SLC improvement package. This screen now increased in size from 5.8 to 7 inches and completed with extra vehicle parameter displays to underline the sporty feel. These virtual dials that show engine data, for example. In contrast to other Mercedes models, the monitor doesn't increase in size if you upgrade the standard Audio 20 setup to this optional Command Online system. The command package is still worth having, though, if you can stretch to it. Complete, as usual, with 3D mapping, live traffic information, linguatronic voice control, and the facility to create in the car a WLAN Wi-Fi hotspot that'll connect into your internet-enabled devices and give you in-car access to Facebook, Google Maps, and a range of Mercedes' own apps. In this case, a further embellishment is provided by an optional 500-watt 10-speaker Harman Kardon Logic 7 surround sound audio system. Sports seats are standard, of course, and they're very supportive for drivers of all sizes. Most owners will want them trimmed in leather, the hide specifically designed to reflect the sun so they'll stay relatively cool on a hot day. Take our advice and you'll equip these chairs with the optional air scarf system that gently wafts warm air around your neck from these slots in the headrest. It's one of those things that'll make you more likely to want to put the top down on sunnier winter days and really enjoy your SLC to the full. Now, further help in this regard is provided by another option, this air guide feature that uses rotating pieces of clear perspex discreetly located behind the seat headrest roll hoops. Now, when required, these manually pivot into position to minimise turbulent airflow and noise within the cabin. A standard wind deflector does much the same job for the section between these hoops, and that can be quickly slotted in and out of place. On to cabin practicalities, and we should start by saying that, as usual in cars of this kind, over-the-shoulder vision when the roof's up is pretty poor, so stretching to the optional reversing camera, or even better, the Parktronic auto parking system, will be money well spent if you can stretch to it. As for cabin stowage, well, it does seem rather mean of Mercedes to charge extra for cup holders. You'll be glad of them though, as the door pockets are rather small. The glove box provides a larger storage area, and there's another under the armrest between the front seats here. There's one other small compartment between the seats with a lift-up lid. Pop this open and you'll locate the button that operates the roof. Finally, we'll mention that the auto transmission is marshalled by a proper auto gear stick rather than the overloaded steering column stalk fitted to other Mercedes models. It's more fitting for the kind of car this is. Buying a two-seater sports car is a decision you tend to make with your heart. Even so, there's still a key role for the head in the purchase process, hence the need for Mercedes to think carefully about SLC pricing policy in this segment. You'll pay from just over £30,000 for the entry-level SLC 200 2-litre turbo petrol version that most customers buy, the only model in the range available with a manual gearbox. You'll pay around £1,500 more for automatic transmission. All other variants come only with the 9G Tronic Auto box, the most significant of these being an SLC 250D diesel model available at a premium of only around £1,000 over an SLC 200, which means a starting price of around £33,000. Whatever engine you prefer, you'll be offered standard sport trim as a starting point, but you can choose to find a further £4,000 to upgrade to the more dynamic-looking AMG line specification, if budget permits. If you prioritise pokier performance, then the flagship Mercedes-AMG SLC 43 model is likely to appeal. But an asking price of well over £46,000 may require a minor lottery win, and in any case, pitches this car up against some pretty illustrious rivals. Having considered that, you might decide that a better choice is the SLC 300 variant that we're trying here. True, the 2-litre turbo engine is basically the same as you'll find in the entry-level SLC 200, but here it's been tweaked up to 245 brake horsepower, and the whole package comes with a standard AMG line trim at a price that from launch was just over £39,000. And this is the car we're trying here. Onto the way that SLC pricing matches up to rivals in this segment. Now, at launch in spring of 2015, its most obvious competitor was the second-generation version of BMW Z4, the only other alternative in this sector with a metal folding roof. Now, against this car, the SLC's proposition looks pretty strong. The BMW has a smaller boot, it can't offer a diesel option, it costs slightly more to run, and in volume entry-level 1.8-litre form, costs only a fraction less than an SLC 200, but offers less power and performance. Now, we think that stronger competition is provided by Audi's Mark III model TT Roadster, though, as we've said, to consider that car, you'll need to be comfortable with the thought of giving up this SLC's sophisticated Vario electric metal folding roof cleverness for what amounts to a canvas tent erected above your head. Now, if that's okay with you, then you'll find the open-top TT to be slightly cheaper and lighter than this SLC, so a little faster and more economical. It doesn't have quite as exclusive a feel as this Mercedes though, or the same standard of auto gearbox technology. Are there other alternatives? Well, very few really credible ones. Cars like the BMW 2 Series convertible and Audi's A3 Cabriolet are priced quite closely to the SLC, but are more natural competitors for Mercedes' soft-top four-seater C-Class Cabriolet, which uses many of the same engines as an SLC and is priced from just over £36,000. So check out this more practical model while you're in your Mercedes showroom in case that's a better fit for you. At the other extreme, a plushed-up Mazda MX-5 Roadster or a base-trimmed Lotus Elise might be priced similarly to a base SLC 200, but neither car can offer the kind of luxury and quality that a Mercedes buyer would be looking for. Further Roadster rivals really only come into play if you're shopping for one of the very top SLC models. If you've around £40,000 to spend and you're looking at this SLC 300 variant, then for a couple of £1,000s more, you could go a touch faster in a Porsche 718 Boxster. If you've close to £50,000 to spend and you find yourself looking at the flagship Mercedes-AMG SLC 43, then alternatives include the Porsche 718 Boxster S or Jaguar F-Type convertible 3-litre V6, and both are priced at around £6,000 more than that top SLC though. If you can push your budget up to £60,000, then you might even consider the Alfa Romeo 4C Spider. Having looked at all these alternatives though and enjoyed yourself on a few test drives, we wouldn't be surprised if you decided an SLC to be your preferred choice. Now, if that's the case, then you're going to want to know about the equipment levels offered as standard with this stylish German Roadster. All models get the electro-hydraulic Vario roof as standard, of course, and this time around it comes with a clever feature that automatically lowers the internal boot separator into position if you've left it up. The Vario top won't work unless that separator's in that lower position. Away from the roof, other standard exterior SLC features include 17-inch 5-spoke alloy wheels and LED daytime running lights integrated into the auto-activating halogen headlights. There's also an alarm and, rather unusually for a cabrio, a wind deflector comes as standard, this one fitting neatly between the roll hoops and effective in preventing wind buffeting at higher speeds. Moving inside, standard SLC interior features include sports seats, a 3-spoke flat-bottomed multifunction sports steering wheel, brushed stainless steel sports pedals, air conditioning and cruise control with a speed limiter. Plus you get an Audio 20 infotainment system complete with a 7-inch colour screen via which you access a DAB tuner and Bluetooth connectivity. This monitor will also show you the settings you've selected from the standard dynamic select driving mode system, which can tweak the steering feel, the throttle response and on automatic models the gear shift timings too. With the SLC 200 and SLC 250D variants that most customers will be looking at, there's a temptation to find the significant extra premium to upgrade to this AMG line trim level. Is it worth doing that? Well, you decide. The package includes lowered sport suspension and larger 18-inch multi-spoke alloy wheels that feature the branded calipers of a sports braking system. Plus, there's a more distinctive diamond radiator grille with chromed pins and an AMG body styling kit with front and rear aprons and side skirts. Inside, there are leather seats with contrast stitching and red seat belts. Plus, you get a checkered flag design for the instrument cluster. And the steering wheel has perforated grips and galvanized silver chrome paddle shifters. Finally, in this segment, we'll run through the kit list offered by the top Mercedes-AMG SLC 43 model. Now, this variant offers obvious differences when it comes to engine and performance. And to cope with these, there's a mechanical rear axle limited slip differential, an AMG high-performance braking system with larger perforated discs and red calipers, AMG speed-sensitive sports steering, and an AMG sports exhaust system. Upgraded aesthetics include 10-spoke, 18-inch alloy wheels and an even more overt AMG body styling kit, along with an AMG boot spoiler. Inside, there's an AMG performance steering wheel with red stitching for its combination Napa leather and Dynamica microfiber trim. Plus, you also get a Garmin Map Pilot sat-nav, An analog clock on the dash top, rain-sensing wipers, heated seats, an ambient lighting pack and a Parktronic system with a reversing camera that'll automatically steer you into spaces. In addition, there's an AMG instrument cluster featuring a race timer stopwatch that you might be able to use on the included AMG Driving Academy training session that comes with all Mercedes AMG models. Also standard are two features that buyers of humbler SLCs will often want to specify as options. We've got them here. One is the air scarf neck level heating setup, which uses vents at the top of the seat backs to jet pleasantly warm air around your shoulders, ideal for roof down motoring on cold winter mornings. And the other is the LED intelligent light system, which adapts the headlights to traffic and road conditions as you drive. All well and good, but here our focus is on mainstream SLC models. So let's say you've selected one of these and you now need to add a few key, well-chosen extras to perfect your purchase. What should your priorities be? Well, we've already mentioned the air scarf system. Well, we definitely want that. Probably alongside the clever air guide, pivoting transparent wind deflectors that reduce open-top cabin buffeting even further. For the time when the roof is closed, we'd want the panoramic glass sunroof, probably the version featuring what Mercedes calls Magic Sky Control, which uses electrochromatic technology to switch the molecular alignment in the glass panel from light to dark at the push of a button, which is brilliant. If you're going to be seriously driving your SLC as well as seriously posing in it, then you're also going to want the optional dynamic handling package. Now this gives you three things: sharper direct steer speed sensitive steering, ESP curved dynamic assist torque vectoring to help you better get the power down through hard cornering, and adaptive dampers that allow you to alter the suspension feel through the various settings of the dynamic select driving mode system. An even more sophisticated adaptive damping setup called AMG Ride Control is offered as an option on that top SLC 43 variant. So those are the main things you'll need, but of course there's plenty else on the SLC options list. This car has the keyless go system that's optional on all automatic models. This not only giving you keyless entry and start, but also enabling you to open the Vario roof remotely with the key. Less significant options fitted to this particular car include the analog clock, the ambient lighting package, the heated front seats, and the Parktronic parking system from the SLC 43, and a mirror package that gives you power folding mirrors and auto dimming for the exterior driver's mirror and the rear view mirror. There's also upgraded thermotronic automatic climate control and a memory package that adds electric adjustment with memory settings for the seat and the steering column, matching these with the positioning of the powered mirrors. There's also an optional heated windscreen washer system. And for some reason, Mercedes insists on charging extra for cup holders. Don't go spending too much on extras like these, though, until you've considered the merits of the optional Command Online infotainment system. And with Command, you get a better 3D hard disk drive navigation system with live traffic information and a traffic sign assist feature that flashes up road signs on the monitor as you pass them. There's also Linguatronic voice control, plus you get a mobile Wi-Fi hotspot for your internet-enabled devices that gives you unrestricted access to Mercedes-Benz apps. Command also allows you to play DVDs and is your access point for the DAB audio system. Now, if you've got more cash to spend, you can upgrade this into the enhanced setup that we've got here. A Harman Kardon Logic 7 surround sound package with 10 speakers, a 10-channel amplifier and a 500-watt output. Let's finish with aesthetics. Now, if you're a typical buyer, getting the look and feel of your SLC right will be key. Metallic paint is optional, of course, with various more exclusive Designo colours too. There are various 18-inch alloy wheel designs, or you might want to get these as part of one of the optional night packages that feature black exterior detailing for a meaner look. Other nice extra cost features include illuminated door sill panels, plus there's a range of interior trimming inserts in carbon fibre, aluminium, or as in this case, black ash wood. Avoid entry-level trim, and you've also the option of softer Napa leather upholstery with or without touches of race-style Dinamica microfiber. So that's enough with that. Let's look at safety now. We'll start with all the expected stuff. Things like twin head and side airbags, plus there are built-in rollover bars to keep your head safe and crash-responsive head restraints to guard against whiplash. Other impact mitigating features include a deformable steering column and a clever active bonnet that, in the nightmare scenario of you colliding with a pedestrian, will, in the fraction of a second, raise itself by 80 millimeters, better protecting that unfortunate person's head and giving them a better chance of survival. There's also tyre pressure monitoring, a hill holder clutch, and all the usual electronic assistance features. So an ESP stability control system and ABS braking, of course, with brake assist for emergency stops that'll activate adaptive brake lights able to automatically flash and instantly warn following motorists. Talking of brakes, we should also mention the active brake assist system. Now, it's like an extra pair of eyes that at urban speeds of up to 31 miles an hour uses a radar sensor to constantly scan the road in front and behind you for moving and stationary vehicles that might represent potential collision hazards. If one's detected, it'll warn you and then prime the brakes. If you don't respond, or you aren't able to, the car can brake itself to reduce the severity of any resulting accident. And the system also protects against rear-end collisions at speeds of up to 25 miles an hour. In other words, it is very clever. Now, testing has indicated this whole setup will eradicate 20% of nose-to-tail accidents and decrease their severity in a further 25% of cases. Then there's Attention Assist, a clever feature that monitors your driving reactions for drowsiness, and it'll respond to that by prompting you to stop for a restorative coffee. The standard Mercedes Me Connect system also includes an e-call emergency call system that can deal with accident recovery, breakdown and maintenance management. Plus, if you're incapacitated in the event of a crash, then it'll automatically summon the emergency services and inform them of your exact GPS location. And that Mercedes Me Connect system can also be upgraded to provide the owner with onboard use of the so-called remote and location services that come as standard if you've got the upgraded command online infotainment system. Now, this means that via your phone or PC, you can track your car if it's stolen, locate it if you forget where you parked it, update yourself with your SLC model's fuel level or mechanical status, or even lock or unlock the doors from wherever you are. On to extra cost optional safety features. A lane tracking package gives you active blind spot assist to stop you from dangerously pulling out to overtake, and lane keeping assist to stop dozy drivers from veering out of their lanes on major roads, vibrating the steering wheel to warn you if you do veer out of your lane. Or you could go further and get yourself what Mercedes calls its driving assistance package. Now, this includes the 2 lane tracking package features, plus Distance Pilot Distronic, a sophisticated cruise control system that can work at high speeds using a radar and automatic braking to keep you a safe distance in front of and behind other cars in highway traffic. Given that this SLC isn't an all-new design, there are no headline efficiency changes brought about by weight reduction or the implementation of new engines for mainstream models. Still, key improvements have been made. There's the more efficient 9G-tronic automatic gearbox for a start that works with a standard stop-start system, and a dynamic select vehicle driving mode system offering an eco setting that softens the throttle response and changes up through the gears earlier to use less fuel. All of this should be enough to keep this SLC on the pace when it comes to efficiency in this segment. In fact, your expectations in that regard will probably be surpassed if the variant you have in mind is the SLC 250D diesel. This car can return 70.6 miles per gallon on the combined cycle and emit just 114 grams per kilometre of CO2. I mean, you'd be happy with those numbers on a small hatch, never mind a premium roadster with an auto gearbox. Impressively, these returns easily improve on those you get from a rival Audi TT Roadster 2-litre TDI Ultra, despite that Ingolstadt model's lighter weight. Most SLC buyers, though, go for the base petrol SLC 200 variant. So how does that one do? Well, not too badly, assuming you fit it out with the auto gearbox that almost all buyers will want. In this form, you'll also get better returns from the direct class alternatives, specifically 47.9 miles per gallon on the combined cycle and 137 grams per kilometre of CO2. Bear in mind, though, that with manual transmission, those readings fall a bit to 43.5 miles per gallon and 150 grams per kilometre. But then only 5% of SLC buyers opt for manual transmission. And as we said earlier in this film, you can't have it at all on the SLC 300 petrol variant that we're trying here, which manages 47.1 miles per gallon and 138 grams per kilometre of CO2. Again, that is significantly better than direct Audi TT and BMW Z4 rivals. Should you prefer the high-speed charms of the top Mercedes-AMG version of this car, then you might think you'd be punished at the pumps. You certainly were with the previous V8 SLK 55 AMG model, which managed only 33.6 miles per gallon on the combined cycle and 195 grams per kilometre of CO2. In contrast, the twin-turbo V6 SLC 43 improves those figures to 36.2 miles per gallon and 178 grams per kilometre, which means its readings are now significantly better than those of any four-cylinder Porsche 718 Boxster. What about other fiscal matters? Well, we've seen the SLC is priced very closely to its direct rivals, but how will it fare when you come to sell it on? Well, not too badly is the answer. Thanks to the lure of the Mercedes badge, all mainstream models should retain around 34% of their list price after the usual 3-year, 60,000-mile ownership period, which matches what you get from an equivalent BMW Z4 or Audi TT. As a result, leasing rates on the SLC are evenly matched against its competitors. Choose the SLC 43 and the retained value figure rises to 36%, and not quite up at the level you'd see with, say, a Porsche 718 Boxster, but certainly an improvement on what was achieved by the old AMG SLK. The SLC doesn't do quite as well when it comes to insurance groupings. These pitched slightly above those of its equivalent German rivals. An SLC 200 is rated at Group 43, while the SLC 250D and this SLC 300 both sit at Group 45. For the Mercedes-AMG SLC 43, you look at Group 47. What else? Well, I'll tell you that the comprehensive 3-year unlimited mileage warranty is built upon by Mercedes' Mobilo scheme, which delivers breakdown cover for up to 30 years, as long as you continue to have your car serviced at a Mercedes main dealer. And it's also worth knowing that your maintenance outlay can be kept a little in check by going for the optional service care package that takes care of routine maintenance, spreading the cost of regular servicing, guaranteeing the price of parts and labour for up to 4 services, and covering the cost of all the recommended service items, such as brake fluids, spark plugs, air filters, fuel filters and screen wash. There's also an assist dashboard service indicator that monitors engine use and tells you exactly when a garage visit's due. And finally, if booking your car in for scheduled workshop appointments is just a little bit too much effort, standard services that come as part of the basic Mercedes Me Connect system can remotely get in touch with your nearest franchise dealership to automatically make an appointment. Back in 1996, the Mercedes SLK reinvented the coupe cabriolet concept for the modern age. In many ways, its SLC successor still does. This car, after all, demonstrates that an uncompromised sports car of this kind doesn't have to be uncomfortable to drive in town or on long trips. It need cost no more than a family hatchback to run. It can make you feel at one with the elements, even when the roof's up. And when you can go al fresco, the coldest day can feel almost as warm as it would be were the top to be closed. These are all attributes that rivals struggle to match, even if some of these competitors might be cheaper or sharper through the bends. The evolution that's led to this SLC has usefully refined some of those traditional SLK characteristics, particularly those connected with ride quality and running cost efficiency. Plus, with this improved design, we've also been reminded just what a good driver's car this model has become. Although on mainstream variants, it is necessary to spend extra on the dynamic handling package if you're to enjoy its abilities to the full. We think many likely buyers will probably pass on that, content instead to enjoy SLC's strength in luxury and refinement that are perfectly complemented by the segment-leading excellence of the smooth-shifting 9G-tronic automatic transmission. No other roadster in the class, and actually, few other affordable open-top sports cars we can think of are as good over longer trips. Now that's not the kind of attribute prioritised by other, more enthusiast-orientated offerings in this segment. Mercedes, though, knows that not all cars in this class are bought by enthusiasts. The brand understands its target audience, and in this SLC has brought us a contender that's become more finely attuned to its market than ever before. Now, if you're one of those believing a two-seat roadster to be a selfish and irresponsible indulgence, well, the three-pointed star clearly thinks it can persuade you otherwise.